Big game this weekend, Chelsea against Manchester United, Potter against Ten Hag, a new fresh test for Potter as Chelsea manager. Kweku, big Chelsea fan. Man United have done well in these big games, haven't they? And they go to Stamford Bridge, and generally, Man United-Chelsea, I always think of Chelsea winning these games. They've generally got quite a decent record against Manchester United. Does Potter need this victory to convince the Chelsea fans? I think everyone likes him, but from my point of view, and maybe it's just these last two away games against Brentford and Aston Villa, I haven't been totally convinced by that. You then see Man United turn up, and in terms of styles, we'll talk about that in just a second. But does Potter need this one?
Yeah, he needs it way more than Ten Hag. I think Man United will set up not to lose, and I think Potter does need a win, a marquee win. Of course, the wins against AC Milan in the Champions League were great, but we know the Premier League is the bread and butter. Man United have been great against the top teams this season. They beat Arsenal, they beat Liverpool, they beat Spurs. They probably had the toughest starts of the season in terms of fixtures. If they can go to Stamford Bridge and get a result, that's huge. That's a huge feather in the cap for Erik Ten Hag.
What have you enjoyed about Potter so far, in terms and what have you not enjoyed about him?
What I've enjoyed is the progressive style of football. We've seen it at Chelsea. We've had pragmatic managers come in.
Can you see a real change from Tuchel?
100%. Wow. Tuchel was a great manager, but to his core, was pragmatic. We've had Antonio Conte, we've had Jose Mourinho. Chelsea have been listed with pragmatic managers. Last time we saw progressive football at Stamford Bridge was Carlo Ancelotti, I'd say. And that was
going to say sorry there for a second. I was like,
sorry ball was different. It was interesting, but I can really see what Potter's trying to do. It's difficult picking your fantasy team and picking Chelsea players because you don't know who's going to start. And I think that's one thing that's marked his tenure as Chelsea manager so far, rotation. And I think the reason why Chelsea suffered and struggled against Brentford midweek was it was a heavily rotated side. Brozier got his first start in the Premier League for Chelsea. Obviously, Conor Gallagher started. A lot of Chelsea's key players were on the bench and came off the bench later in the game to try and salvage a win. And it worked against Wolves when Chelsea were dominant from minute one and managed to comfortably see off Wolves. But against Brentford, Chelsea struggled a little bit. So I think with Potter, it's been a very, very good start. We're unbeaten, barely conceding goals now. But he does need that marquee Premier League win to really stamp his mark on Chelsea.
With Man United coming into this game off the back of that Tottenham result, do you feel like they're starting to really kind of understand who they are and what they want to be? Because I looked at the team, and okay, Fred or McTominay. I think in that system I would go Casemiro, Fred, and Fernandez. Otherwise, that for me is the best Man United team you can put forward. People will scream and go Eriksen. I get that. In terms of overall balance for these games against teams that you expect to really hurt you in the opposite direction. Do you think Ten Hag's really starting to kind of get some roots into this team in terms of how they play?
Here's the thing. I think the Spurs game, that midfield is where that's the only area you'd probably change for United. I think everything else sort of kind of picks itself. That midfield suited playing against Spurs' midfield. Fred was busy. He was everywhere, doing probably what Fred is suited to do. Let him do his thing. Casemiro sits. And then Bruno was completely different. It was a less erratic, a more controlled Bruno Fernandez, almost like the dictator of the game. You come up against Chelsea, and I think one thing Potter's done really well is he unlocks Mount. And he said to him, you're actually the key man. You're the man who's going to be the one who creates the moments for us because you've got the ability. You've got Conor Gallagher, who's the equivalent of, say, Fred. You're busy. Go and win the ball back for us in every area. You don't need to play between the lines, but just stay in the game. I think that's where the game gets decided. And I'm not quite convinced that Ten Hag's found that thing that he wants. I think what he's found is how to maybe navigate certain fixtures. I think Eriksen probably starts against Chelsea, so I think they'll need a bit more control. I think they were given the control against Spurs. Chelsea will go, we want it back, because Kovacic is fit, and Kovacic is a massive plus for Chelsea. Yeah. So I think Chelsea will have a little bit more control in that sense. The right back thing's an issue though. Rashford against Aspilicueta.
Control's an interesting element of this, because if you think of the style of both teams, Man United, they want to play counter-attack. They're happy playing counter-attack, and it's the teams that they've got to break down and still not totally figured that one out. And so it's weird, you kind of come into this game thinking, oh, they'll be kind of licking their lips for it. For Chelsea, they seem to have that control, but I guess it's about breaking down the opposition a little bit. Do you think this game... Who's more excited about this game in terms of the styles of it? Do you think Chelsea would be slightly concerned about how prolific Man United have been on the counter-attack? Or are they going to go, well, we're going to be able to have the ball here. we've got an opportunity at home to break down an opposition. Who do you think should be more excited about playing this game?
Well, after the result of midweek, when Man United got a strong result against Spurs, they're way more excited to visit Stamford Bridge than Chelsea are to. Chelsea dropped points against Brentford, and now this game against Man United, it's not a must-win, but if Chelsea want to, the title race is open, and I'm not going to sit here and say that Chelsea can win the Premier League, but Chelsea can win the Premier League if results go our way. So I feel like this game against Man United is huge for Chelsea, and Man United can play with a little bit of freedom. The freedom won't translate in their style of play.
You think Man United can play with freedom?
Yeah, they can, because if Man United lose at Stamford Bridge, they're expected to lose at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea expected to get a result. So the freedom won't reflect in the style of play, but reflect in the mentality of Manchester United players. But if you do look at it, I know you said at the beginning that Chelsea normally have a good record against Man United. They haven't beaten Man United in the league since 2017.
And maybe I'm looking well back. I'm early year. Yeah. Well, even earlier than that. I'm showing my age here now. There used to be a time where Man United was so strong and Chelsea always seemed to get results.
But since Antonio Conte was Chelsea manager, so that's a long time that Chelsea haven't beaten Manchester United in the Premier League. Last 4 league games have been draws. So this is a must-win for Chelsea, and this is a little bit of pressure for Graham Potter, but I think he's up to the task.
We're going to talk about Ronaldo in just a second, but the one thing that was in my mind when I was kind of reading and talking about Mason Mount, that free role that he seems to have now for the team and how important he is for Chelsea, Bruno Fernandez gets himself that goal. Who would you rather have in your team? Who's the better player, Bruno Fernandez or Mason Mount?
On their day, like at their absolute peak, Bruno Fernandez. Yeah. However, on a 38-game cycle, Mason Mount.
So you'd have if you can sign one of those two players for your team.
I sign Mason Mount. I don't think you can manage Bruno Fernandez. And you actually, after he scored, all of a sudden the light bulb went. And I think after he scored, he had 2 shots on goal and tried to play 2 killer passes, and both were given away. Yeah. He was just lucky that Spurs couldn't take advantage.
What do you mean by you can't manage Bruno Fernandes?
I think he's one of these players where, like, Ten Hag in the game against Spurs said, just be sensible, behave yourself. And Spurs kind of went, yeah, you can have the ball, mate. And he was like, oh, I can kind of do my thing. In games where the game's quick and it's a bit of a basketball match, he loses complete control. He starts playing passes that he doesn't need to play. He starts sort of giving the ball away every few minutes. He's on the ground and becomes a bit more of a frustrating player. Mason Mount you can manage, and Southgate's proven that. Graham Potter's proven that. Tuchel's proven that. You can play him in various positions, and I think Potter has found a way to go, I think this is what we need Mount to do. You don't need to be pegging it everywhere every 2 minutes. We've got other players who can do that for us. I actually think that right side that United have been doing really well in, with Dalot and Anthony, will be where that game is won and lost, because Chilwell and Cucurella coming the other side actually are really well balanced together, and I love watching them two together. And I think Dalot has got away with it a little bit in the recent few weeks, where people are going, oh, he's a top right back. When he took on Grealish, he looked very ordinary. So I think that will be a very interesting area again.
Anthony, definitely one to watch. 3 goals in the last 4 games for them. How did Chelsea hurt Manchester United then?
It's Mason Mount. It's Mason Mount in those half spaces. He's now in probably...
Is there an over-reliance on him then?
A little bit. He started every game Potter's been in charge, and
he's manager's favourite wherever he goes.
He is manager's favourite, and
so smart.
He is such a smart footballer. And the spaces that he picks up and the passes that he picks, and he doesn't go and chase the game. Bruno Fernandez, like you say, his peak is probably higher than Mason Mount's peak, but Bruno Fernandez goes and chases the game. Whereas Mason Mount lets the game come to him. He's got surprising maturity for somebody that young, and he's played a lot of football as well. So I think if Chelsea are to win this game, it's on the back of Mason Mount, and also it's on the back of Raheem Sterling. I know the away United fans are going to be hurling abuse towards Sterling because obviously he's played for their 2 biggest rivals in City and Liverpool. But this is a game where he needs to show up. This is the reason why we brought Raheem Sterling to Chelsea. He has got an incredible resume, but anywhere he goes, he's got that kind of trait where he's a little bit frustrating. He misses a lot of chances. He's quite profligate in front of goal. He needs to show up in this game, and I think he will. So Raheem Sterling and Mason Mount are the 2 key players for Chelsea if we want to get the win on the weekend.
On the flip side, you've got Ronaldo on the other end. It's just complete and utter chaos without reason. Is you've got Sancho, Anthony, Rashford, and Martial at times who are making it work. Ronaldo walks out. Nobody liked to see that. Has Ten Hag lost him? Do you feel like that's it now?
I think if I'm Ten Hag, I go, fine. You're making my life easier.
That's exactly it.
And the question I was going to throw to you guys was not, does he start? Is do you bomb him out of the matchday squad? Because when we're looking at his stats, in the last game he played, I thought Newcastle were great defensively, but he had 22 touches in the whole game, couldn't get a touch in the central area, partly down to them not sort of dictating the game around him and just getting crosses in, which I think is, if you're going to play Ronaldo, that's a good tactic, right? But he's also in the bottom 1% for pressures, has been for the last few years as well. So he's not offering it that much for the team. He sulks about. He walks off early. You have to show your strength here. And I think Ten Hag, if I was Ten Hag, I'd go, you can do all this, keep doing all this stuff, because you're just ruining your legacy day by day within Man United, not overall. I'd bomb him out of the matchday squad.
Don't you think, though, the more chaos Ronaldo creates, the second United start losing a few games, them two things marry up perfectly, and then you've bombed him out of your squad. And then it's like, now you made a bad choice.
Nah, I think the last antics, I think that's the final straw. I think that's the straw that broke the camel's back. Your team's won 2-0. The feel around Old Trafford's amazing. You've beaten Spurs, who are contenders for the top 4, and then Ronaldo's walking down the tunnel before full time.
Making it about him.
I'm his biggest fan and his biggest apologist, but that's unacceptable, and that's made Ten Hag's job so much easier. I feel like Ten Hag threw him a bone against Newcastle. Like, go on, show him what you can do, but the leash is very short, and then you go and do that against Spurs. I know you didn't start the game, but that's unacceptable, and I think that it's made Ten Hag's job very, very easy. And I don't think we're going to see Ronaldo play that much Man United going forward.
I think we'll see the temperament of Ten Hag here, because if he's really smart and above it and not emotional, you could suggest that Ronaldo, using that energy and anger that he's got, could possibly get you something in a game like this. Or if you're a bit more emotional like myself, you would go, no, this is unacceptable. This has to be about the group. For 4, 5, however many years, it's never been about the group. It's got to be about the group. So he's got a really, really big decision to make. Not just to start him or not start him. And I don't think you would start him, but to even put him in the matchday squad, personally.
No, you can't. I don't think
Big problem he's got is Martial's injury prone. Sancho hasn't really hit the ground running. Rashford's had his injury history. If Rashford picks up an injury and you've bombed Ronaldo out, then...
But for this game specifically, I'm talking about. I get that. And I think sometimes it's worth the risk to get the message across. And I don't care what age he is. I don't care what he's done in the game. You can't be doing that. You cannot be doing that with an earring in like that as well.
Oh, man, he's really showing his age.
Let's do it. It's going to be a great game. I'm intrigued to see how it goes down. We'll come to you last. I'll go first. I think Chelsea at home actually have looked quite strong and created quite a decent amount. I think they might sneak it 2-1. I think it'll be a good game. What do you think?
I'm going to go 1-1. I think they're both going to respect each other's distance, respect each other's situation, and go, hey, listen, I'll take a point. You take a point. Because we're not actually in the title race. And that'll be that.
Ouch. 2-1 Chelsea. Much needed win, and I think Graham Potter will get that win. I trust him as a manager. I do think we'll concede the goal, but I think we've got enough in attack to hurt Man United and beat them.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.